Good morning, everybody. Very nice to be here. So I'm not going to use any slides this morning for two reasons. I'm going to largely talk about the performance of London's road network and the congestion and the challenges we face, and you don't need any slides for that. You can go out the door and see it. And also because it gives me that opportunity just to speak slightly more freely if I'm not tied to an official set of slides and so on. So I'm going to start off with something that may surprise you. That back in 2012, London's road network was performing at its best ever recorded levels of performance. Now, if you're slightly shocked by that, I can tell you that statement is slightly disingenuous for a couple of reasons. Because the way we measure performance in terms of journey time reliability, which was very encouraging to hear in the earlier session, the importance of that to the customer, which is something we focused on for many years. But in terms of reliability of the performance of the key strategic networks, in terms of journey time, in terms of disruption and so on, all of those things we've only actually been measuring since about 2008, 2009. So in 2012, when it reached its peak of performance level, it wasn't exactly based on a track record of many, many years. And of course, you'll also remember that 2012 was perhaps a slightly unusual year. We had some minor sporting event. I can't remember what it was. But of course, we had other things going on, including a moratorium on roadworks and things like that. And we were still yet to emerge from the recession that started in about 2008, 2009 and depressed traffic levels somewhat. So it was a kind of a golden era. London's roads were performing pretty well. Journey time reliability was up at its highest levels and so on. Delay and disruption was down. We just brought in the London Lane Rental Scheme in terms of roadworks, which had a significant effect in terms of reducing disruption from major roadworks on major roads and so on. And since then, you will not be surprised to hear that things have gone south just a little bit for a number of reasons. First of all, we came out of recession, and from around October 2013 through to the end of 2015, we saw incredibly strong traffic growth throughout London, 2 to 3% a year, as the country emerged from recession. And we saw that typical thing that when traffic flows are depressed because of economic slowdown, when you come out of the economic slowdown, the acceleration to catch up on what that long-term trajectory has always been in terms of traffic growth, development growth, population growth and so on, catches up quite quickly. So that put us under a lot of pressure. And of course, because we were coming out of recession, we saw a resurgence of development activity, construction activity, and so on. So all of those things were going on. Couple that with technology changes and disruptive growth in the private hire industry, particularly, which has seen a massive growth in the number of private hire vehicles operating, particularly in central London, where we've seen a near doubling of the volumes operating in the central zone, and so on. And indeed, the continuing development of road space, or the reuse of road space for means other than driving traffic around it, for reasons linked not only to better environment, better quality of life, healthier streets and so on, but also linked to that development. We've seen continuing reductions in the amount of road space available for traffic movement in favour of pedestrians, in favour of public transport, and of course in favour of cycling. And those of you who know London well will be aware of the transformation that we've delivered in the last 2 or 3 years in terms of cycling facilities with the cycle superhighways and so on. All of which has make ever harder to operate a road network effectively in the face of continuing demand, lowering space. Therefore, we have to rely on increasing efficiency, increasing use of technology. We've been investing heavily in the last few years in dynamic traffic signal technology. Our experiences with the Olympics and our capability to manage dynamically traffic has gone up hugely. And we now have very, very sophisticated means of controlling the flow of traffic across London, particularly in the morning peaks, because for those of you who understand London's road network, indeed the road network of any major city, it's governed really by the way you manage flow into the centre in the morning particularly. If you can manage that and control that, then you avoid saturating or oversaturating the network and getting the opportunity for gridlock on certain parts of the network. If you don't control that effectively, that's when your network is at real risk of grinding to a halt. So we'll be able to keep up with that. We're able to deliver a whole load of things. But crucially, you can't do that in the evening peak. It doesn't work in reverse because you've got a lot of people coming out of a small space and the object there is to try and basically get them out as quickly as possible. So what we've seen in terms of the way we run our road network is an increasing two-tiered approach, managing the network, controlling it in the mornings to make sure that we can keep London moving, but then in the afternoons looking as to how quickly we can get traffic away from the centre. That has an effect in terms of the way we manage the traffic technology-wise, in our increasing reliance on forcing more traffic than the roads can naturally cope with through the system, with using technology, using Scoot, using dynamic traffic signal control, etc. And it also has an effect in terms of what more can we cram out of minimizing disruption and delay from events, incidents, breakdowns, and so on and so forth. So we work very closely with the police. Over the last few years, we've delivered huge reductions in the amount of time it takes us to clear up fatal and serious road accidents, roughly halving the average durations from around 8 hours to do a fatal road incident investigation several years ago to under 4 hours today. We're now targeting less than 3 hours to do the same amount of work, the same degree of criminal investigation, etc., that needs to be done in any of those events, but getting the roads open quicker. We've done a lot of work with the utility industry. I mentioned lane rental a few minutes ago, but that's only the tip of the iceberg, really, and the work we're doing to speed up both the resolution of unplanned incident disruption and the better management and coordination of planned incidents, planned activity, workathons, as we like to call them, where we bring together large numbers of utilities to do work at the same time in terms of block closures, etc. And of course coordinating with our own works, because in terms of asset investment, asset maintenance, we are probably the single biggest, on the TLRN anyway, the single biggest roadworks promoter in terms of the work we do to keep the network moving by maintaining our assets. Bringing all of that together, so a lot of that work goes on and has delivered some significant results in terms of improving and reducing the amount of delay and disruption due to roadworks and planned and unplanned incidents and events and so on. However, and I will finish on this, to understand the significance and the limit of what you can do in terms of keeping a network moving by managing events, in total, they only account for around 25% of the delay and disruption that London's road users experience every day. Around 9% of it is due to roadworks activity of one sort or other, just 9%. I know that in the media you might believe that roadworks account for all the delay and disruption and all the problems that anybody experiences everywhere on an urban road network. 9% overall. 7% from road traffic collisions and incidents like that, and another 9% covering everything else from spillages, events, sporting events, you name it. 25% in total. The other 75%, where does it come from? Quite simply, it comes from excess demand relative to the amount of network capability we have. 75% of delay on London's road network every day is effectively down to peak time demand. Which brings me really to something that we all know as highway engineers, that if you really want to manage a road network in a major urban area and keep it running efficiently, you need to manage demand and prioritize demand, which means you need to focus on delivering modal shift, something that we've been doing for many years and have had some success in. But of course, that's matched by the sort of growth in population, the growth in economic activity, the increasing demand for a limited amount of road space for many, many different forms. So where we are today is that with the new mayor, we're developing a new transport strategy that we will publish a draft of in the coming months and so on. But one thing I can tell you now is it will focus inexorably on how we deliver increasing levels of modal shift, how we manage demand effectively, how we link all of the things that we're doing together in terms of road network demand, in terms of sustainable transport, in terms of air quality, and in terms of prioritizing usage of the road network into what the mayor and the deputy mayor are saying very clearly is a new healthy streets agenda to balance the needs of all of those things, make sure that we can deliver all of those diverse needs and things we need to get out of the road network in London, and at the same time keep traffic moving. Thank you.